if you're not used to bringing up tension or conflict with your loved ones, it can really help to initially have a conversation about how you would like to create a culture of healthy, loving, productive conflict together. So to have this conversation, it can be helpful to explore a number of different questions.
And those questions can really range. For me, I found I really enjoy understanding how someone wants to be met in conflict. For example, I'm dating someone who typically needs a lot of space and doesn't like to be touched, even when they're emoting and sharing something vulnerable. So the question I could ask them is, how do you like to be received when you're sharing something vulnerable? Do you welcome touch? Do you welcome curiosity? Do you want me to, what would help support you essentially in your vulnerability? And that kind of leads into another point around just talking about the pattern or dynamic that you get into. So often we can't really notice it when we're really in the conflict, but you might have, when you sit down and think about it, you might notice, for example, you have a dynamic that's very fiery and collapse, or one in which is very defensive and people-pleasing. What's the pattern that you find yourself in? Because that's often the enemy of conflict, right? It's the thing that gets you trapped or stuck. And even just being able to name that, bring attention to it, will help you identify it happening live going forward. I would also add, how would this person like to be lovingly called out? For example, if I sense that they're on a defensive footing or not quite connecting or orienting to the conflict with their heart open, do they welcome me reflecting that back? And if so, how? What way could that be welcomingly received?
You can also discuss practical questions like, is there a good time of day that you prefer to have these conversations? So for instance, like it might be quite difficult or challenging when someone's in a work context, and actually it's easier towards the end of the day when you have more space and time available. Another question as well might be around how you prefer, what's the medium? Like, does it need to be face to face? Could it be over the phone? Could it be via voice note? Everyone has very different preferences. I know I personally really prefer having synchronous dialogue, whether that's in person or over the phone, so I can kind of feel the other person on the other end.
And for me, I notice like contracting around that actually doesn't feel as intuitive. I would prefer to just be able to go, hey, do you have space right now for us to talk about X? So that it's a little more organic. But for others, it might be very useful to have sort of pre-agreed ideas of when it feels nourishing.
Another practical one as well is simply about noticing whether people want feedback live in the moment when something actually arises, or they would prefer it later. So I know personally, depending on the types of feedback, I would prefer, okay, when I have more space and time to digest it later, it's better. But actually sometimes I actually really want to know in the moment when somebody is impacted, so we can resolve it there and then. You know, it's no good waiting a few hours because you might have forgotten or actually it's impacted the rest of the day. This is really important because it builds a shared expectation. And when you have that, you're basically contracting together, how do we want to have these kinds of conversations so it doesn't come up as a complete surprise when they do happen.
And it can be really tempting actually on that point to feel like you should go through the emotion in your own space and time and not show that to a partner or a loved one, and only come to them when you're feeling fully composed. Or you might be the kind of person who goes in hot and ready and I'm just ready to explode. And so notice which end of the spectrum you're on and see if you can invite yourself to move a little bit in the other direction. So if you're the kind that delays conflict, can you bring it in when it's a little tender still, where your partner can actually see you in that vulnerability? Or if you are more on the hot-headed side of things, can you take that time?
If you want to lean into more difficult conversations in your life and have more intimacy and connection,
then feel free to check out our group programs or book a one-to-one coaching call with Georgie or I.